Why, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you guys are tuning in from. My name is Tyler. I'm going to be the host of today's webinar. We're going to go through all the different data connectors that we have available at Julius. We'll talk through what a data connector is, how to set it up, and how to get the most out of your data connectors at Julius. We're going to wait a few more minutes for folks to trickle in here. I'm going to double check my audio, make sure everything sounds right. Focus myself here a little bit. Zoom out just a little bit more. Perfect. How's everyone doing? Where's everyone tuning in from today? We're dialing in here from the Julius headquarters here in San Francisco. It's a little overcast today. It's been raining on and off here in the city. Where are you guys calling in from? Tennessee, right on. Exciting. Nice. Hope Tennessee. Granada, wow, Granada, awesome. It's one of the best things about doing these webinars is you sort of don't realize the worldwide community of folks that are using Julius. It's really, really humbling for sure, but definitely makes us really grateful for just everything that, we learn from our users and just talking with users too. Hi, Effie Cooper, Central Florida, right on, right on. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So for today's webinar, again, if you guys have just joined in, we're going to be talking about data connectors, right? If this is your first time learning about Julius, we have these webinars once a week. You could check out all of our previous webinar recordings. We do ones for onboarding. If you're brand new to Julius, it's probably where I would recommend getting started. We'll talk through what is Julius and how to actually just get started from scratch. This is sort of like your Julius 102 or I guess 201 session, right? We'll talk a little bit about data connectors at Julius. Let me change over my screen here. I'm going to go over to my other window here. And I'm actually going to share this doc into the chat. This is a really great resource for folks from Nigeria. Awesome. Nice. This is a great resource just to learn a little bit about data connectors. Well, what is a data connector? Well, historically, in order to get started with Julius, you would have to upload a file or connect, like upload a CSV or upload a PDF or maybe even upload a Excel file, right? And then Julius would analyze that. It's really great for just getting started and getting really quick analysis, but it's not the best for doing repeated analysis, right? Getting these CSVs and uploading them is kind of a pain, especially when you just want to rerun the data or rerun the analysis week over week or day over day. We've chatted with a lot of users, and it turns out most users have their data living somewhere, right? Just like here at Julius, we have our data living in a data warehouse. A lot of users, if they're doing research, they might have their data stored in a Postgres connector. Or if they're working at an enterprise, they have their data stored in Google Ads or Google Drive, or maybe their own warehouse like BigQuery or Snowflake, right? Well, we figured out like, hey, maybe instead of having the users download this data and upload it to Julius manually, what if we could just plug right into that data directly? And that's essentially where data connectors come in. It gives us a direct pipeline right to your data. That way, when the data updates or refreshes, you don't have to do any manual work. You could essentially learn from the data connector. That we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. But Julius, over time, will get smarter as it learns a little bit more about your data and the data source. And it unlocks all these really cool features in Julius that we've built around data connectors and sort of this live data that we'll walk through today. So that's what a data connector is in a nutshell. It's basically a way for us to get right to the source of your data. And again, the biggest hurdle there is, preventing you guys from needing to upload files manually, which can really, really be a pain when you're doing repeated analysis. To get to our data connectors in Julius, you just click on Data Connectors in the left-hand panel here. This will open up our Data Connectors page, and you'll see all of the currently available data connectors that we have. The way I like to break these down is you could first think about your databases, right? So I talked about Postgres, BigQuery, and Snowflake. Those are the big three. A lot of companies and organizations will have their data living there. Then you also have ones like Databricks, SQL Server, and MySQL as well. When you click into any of these database connectors, you'll open up this field here, which will have all of the different ways for you to enter in your credentials and set up our connection to your data warehouse, right? So let's actually do this together. So for this Postgres connector, there's two different modes that you can connect with. One is a direct connection, and the other is an SSH connection. I'm just going to stick to direct in this case. This is just the easiest way for me to connect to my Postgres database. Has all of the different credentials that I normally have. First, I'm going to start with my connection name. This is something that I'm going to refer to whenever I'm talking with Julius about my data warehouse. Best to keep this something really simple or straightforward, something that's easy for you to remember. So I'm going to name this one my marketing database. Next, I'm going to copy in all of my different credentials here. So here I have my username, which is Postgres. This is going to vary based off of your own setup. I'm going to enter in my password. I'm going to add in my IP address or my host, the port, and the database. If this is a little bit foreign to you, maybe you're not used to setting this up. If you do have like an IT team or an IT department, they can also set this up for you. You could just send them a link to this page, and you could also send them a link to our documentation here. Speaking of which, for all of these different connectors, we have a tutorial video. Do you have data in Postgres that you want to end with me in them, where we walk through how to set this up? We have some documentation, which is the page that I shared earlier, where we walk through the setup. Looks like this one doesn't quite work. Let me double check that that link is correct. Apologies here. I'll double check that that link is correct, but it should lead to this page that I shared earlier. And then finally, we have our Security and Trust Center. So those are all the main three resources if you do want to share this with your IT team to help you get started. Looks like everything I put in was lost when I exited out. Let me just enter it in really quickly here for us to get started. So let me just copy this in one more time. That is here. Then I'm going to copy in my IP address, port, and then the database name. So this one is Postgres. Then I'm going to click on Add a Connection. You'll see us loading and trying to connect to it. If anything pops up here, we'll see. Try to let this connect first. If there's any errors that pop up, for example, you might run into maybe a credential error, or you might run into some error code, or maybe there's some other reason why you didn't connect. Again, in all of our documentation for all of these different connectors, we also have a connector error log too. So it just helps with debugging some of this stuff. You can imagine there's infinite number of ways that a connector can not want to connect when you're going through and connecting to it for the first time. So it looks like I ran into one. Please check. It looks like the connection timed out. Please check your host port and firewall settings. It looks like I might have put in the wrong information. So let me try to fix this one more time. I'm going to double check everything that I put in. So I'm going to just change this to Postgres for now. I have my username. I'm going to double check that my password was correct. I have this on. I think one other thing I forgot to change on my side. Let me fix this. Apologies here. I need to be on my team. That's why. I think this should work. Let me see. Let me double check here. Okay, if I go to my data connectors here, apologies for this one. Let me try this one more time here. If I go to my Postgres, let's try this again. Marketing DB, put in my name, put in the password, host, port, nope, that was the port, host here and the database. We'll try this one more time and see if this works. Oh, it looks like I have a duplicate database. We'll connect to this one. That should work. I'm going to let this load here. It usually works a lot faster, so I'm assuming something might be wrong with my Postgres connector right now. We'll come back to that one at the end. Let's just skip over to a different one for now until I can figure out what's going on with that guy. All right, so if I go back to my data connectors here, we'll try one of these other ones here. Is it my internet connection? Looks like something's off here. I'm still connected, right? Yeah, I'm still connected here. Okay. I'm going to refresh everything one more time and just double check. Okay, it looks like it timed out again. I will follow up on the Postgres connector. We'll follow up on that side here. Let me try out one of my other ones here. I'm going to try out the Google Ads one. This one's really basic to set up. It just uses your Google credentials. Same thing for Google Drive as well. Those are some of the most easy connectors to set up. You just need to have a Google account that has a Google Drive or have access to Google Ads account. In this case, I'm just going to connect my Google Drive and my Google authentication here. And then there's a different, two different ways that you could connect Google accounts, right? First, you could select the actual Google Ads account that you manage, for example. So this is for Google Ads. And separately, if you manage multiple accounts, you could also select multiple of these. This is great for marketing agencies that we work with. They're able to connect to multiple accounts as needed. All right, so I'm going to refresh this page here. So now we'll see over here in the pop-up, I'm able to select if there's any other accounts I want to connect to. But here I have the actual Google Ads account that I'm going to work with. I'm going to demo really quickly what this looks like when we chat with this, right? If you go to our documentation over here in the learned information, you can see what this sort of flow looks like. We're going to send a message to Julius. Julius is going to, again, we're going to talk about the learned information, but it's essentially going to pull from our data source. So in this case, Google Ads. And then it's going to return back to us the outputs. And then Julius is going to be able to work with those. And we'll outline what this looks like here in the chat. But this is all in our documentation. All right, so here I'm going to select it for my connectors, the Julius AI Google Ads. And then I'm going to chat with it. I'm going to say, can you pull my recent campaign performance? We're going to wait for this to load up. We're going to wait for it to load up here. Usually doesn't take this long. I think there are times, again, where I run this like 1,000 times before the webinar. And then when I actually do it live, it always just sort of goes a little wonky. In that case, I'm not sure why it didn't work. Let me just switch over here. I'm going to switch over my window really quickly. Maybe I could figure out what's going on. Apologies about this. We're going to open up this guy here. I'm going to change us over from this window over to, apologies about this, folks. We're going to change over to Google Chrome new tab. We're going to go over here. One of the downsides of having 10,000 accounts here. All right, I'm going to flip us over to this guy. Okay, and I'm going to change this demo source. There we go. Cool. Make this a little bit bigger. All right, let's try this one more time. I'm going to connect to that Julius Google Ads account. Julius AI. Search for it here in the team connectors. And there we go. We can see it loaded. So I think something's just off with that account that I'll have to dive into. Sorry about that. Okay, so I opened up my Julius Google Ads, right? You'll see over here on the right side panel, what we call the Data Explorer. This is something we talked about in the previous webinars. Whenever you connect a data connector to this, you'll be able to see all of the different tables that are available for first you to reference to, but also for Julius to access and to query and learn from. And in this case, for my Google Ads account, I have my campaign data, ad group data, ad data, assets, etc. Everything that comes with your traditional Google Ads account. So here I'm going to type in that question again. Can you show me the campaigns we are currently running? So just like the flowchart I outlined, what is going to happen here is Julius is going to write, first it's going to look at our first it's going to look at our data connector. So it's going to look at our Google Ads setup that we have. Then it's going to write a query. And in this case, it's a specific query for Google Ads. So it's a Google Ads query in order to fulfill the prompt I'm looking for. So ideally, Julius is going to go, it's going to learn, it's going to know all about all of the different tables I have in my Google Ads account. And it's going to pull that for me to reference here in Julius. Historically, what we had to do was go to Google Ads itself and download maybe something like an ads report or a campaign report, and then upload that manually into Julius in order for it to access it and analyze it. But in this case, we could just go straight to the source and access all of that here. So you can see the 3 different campaigns that I'm currently running. It doesn't just stop there though. We could go even further into the metrics. I'll say, can you show me impressions and clicks from the last 30 days? And then sort of that flow again repeats. Julius is going to take a look at the knowledge it has, and we'll show you a little bit about the knowledge. It's going to pull the data into Julius to analyze, and then it's going to analyze it inside of Julius. What I mean by learn, right? So imagine you are using your database for the first time, right? Or maybe you've used a database or data connector a lot, right? Internally here at Julius, we use Postgres. We query this. We know all of the different tables we have. We know generally how the columns are organized. That's the context that you get just from using the connector over time, right? Julius functions in the same exact way. As you use Julius to look at your data connector, in this case, Google Ads, we're going to store some of that information about what it's learned, maybe the relationship between tables, maybe some of the business context you've given it. Oftentimes, when you're using a database, you might not have intuitively named columns, right? You might have some that are ambiguous, right? It's pretty common, at least here, and from what we're hearing from some of our customers too. Normally, this all is context that humans will either store in their brains or put into a doc somewhere, right? Same thing works with Julius here. Julius will not know the context of some of these columns as it's using it, right? But over time, as you interact with it and as it pulls data and learns from the data, it'll begin to know that, hey, this column will connect to this column, or this is how you could join this table to another table. That's what we call learned information, right? So if I go back to our docs page here, this is what we sort of break down here with the Julius Learning Sub-Agent. Julius will store all of this understanding about the schema, or essentially your data connection and the way it's organized. And it's going to use that to improve the way that it queries or writes queries with that data connector over time too, right? So initially, when you're first starting out, you can think of it just like a junior data analyst. It's able to write basic queries, but it might get tripped up on some of the confusing column names or the ambiguous column names. But as you work with Julius more, and as you, and I'll show you this after this is done running, update the learned information, then Julius will get to function a little bit better over time, more efficiently, and write more accurate queries. But I think that's one of the cool parts about the learned information as well. So Julius is running through this right now. All right, so it's running the queries, and then it's going to print out the results here. We'll take a look at the click-through rates and some of the impressions and everything. Cool, so we see these different campaigns that we're running, the different campaign IDs, and then also the clicks and impressions over time. And then also a high-level view of, hey, some dates, impressions, and clicks. And then I'll say, hey, one last time, can you visualize this for me? And this is where we'll separate out the Google query from just running a Python code, writing and running a Python code inside here. All right. So here it's going to do the code, and it's going to write the outputs here. Okay, and then it looks like from this chart, we could see that since the beginning of October, our click-through rate has been trending upwards. Then also the click-through rate for the other campaign looks like it's trending downwards here, at least until this recent spike. Maybe just this week isn't completed. I'm going to briefly show over to the learned information, right? So if you go to your data connectors page, every single one of these connectors has learned information, right? Every single connector is different. Every database is different. So in this case, I'm going to go to my demo database, the one that I was showing earlier, or at least attempting to connect to earlier. I'm going to click on the edit custom instructions here. And I'm going to show the learned information. It looks like it's blank. Maybe that's because I haven't connected to it before. I'll show the Google Ads one maybe. We'll just connect really quickly here. I want this to be, sorry. Brain's kind of scattered it here. Demo Postgres. This is the one I meant to show earlier. This one, and I go over to the learned information, and then here's where you could see the breakdown. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. So here we could see Julius's knowledge or context or learned information about this connector. And we could see it has these different column names. So we see demo columns, form column, default value, data types, for example. We have one for the marketing spend. And on the right side here, we can see everything that Julius has learned about either this table, this column, etc. So we can see this table lists all of the tables available within this data source, for example. And then we have this one that says this column stores the number of rows in the table, which is useful. And then for the marketing spend one, we say this column shows marketing channel name, for example, Google Ads, LinkedIn, and Meta Ads, which is the grouping key. The cool thing is you could update any of these as needed, right? So if, for example, you are starting out with a brand new data connector and you do know some of this knowledge and some of this mapping yourself, you could be like, hey, this column is actually used for this, or this ambiguous column name is used for that. Separately, you could also freeze the schema, right? So if you get Julius into a pretty good spot and the knowledge is working pretty flawlessly, you can just freeze the schema. No new changes will be added, which is helpful for just not adding in any unnecessary information as you're working with the data connector. Zoom out here and let me actually show you the Postgres, which I wanted to show you guys earlier. So if I go back to a new chat and I go to my demo Postgres, which is here. Here again, you'll see the data connector and the data explorer will pop open on the right side. And here again, I could show you all the different tables that we have available here. Then also you could even preview some of the columns and rows as well by expanding the respective table in the right panel over here too. So we have some rows for campaign lifecycle. We have one for users, for example. And this can have as many tables as you need or are inside of your database. Right, and then I'm just going to do a really quick one. We'll say, show me marketing spend by channel. And then this is going to be using my demo Postgres that I set up earlier. I'm going to change my view here so this looks cells here, so it looks normal. So all of this information that you see here, this is Julius referring to all of the learned information it knows, and knows that table that I showed you earlier, and knows, hey, this column is for this. This is how we join it. So you can see it wrote the query here, the Postgres query to grab the data. And then it pulled it into Julius and shows us in this table here. So we could see marketing spend by channel, Google Ads has spent this much, LinkedIn has spent this much, etc. The really cool part, and this is where we start to get into why are data connectors useful beyond just not needing to pull the data manually and upload it yourself, right? Well, the cool part is if you go into a notebook, and I have one, for example, here, we can make a new one, and we could add in a data source, so one of the data connectors that I uploaded. So I'll do demo. I could add in that same exact query that I just ran. So pull my weekly or pull my marketing spend by channel. I wonder if something went wrong here again. Maybe it's just, is it just notebooks? When I started the chat, it was really, really fast. Let me stop this guy here. We're going to try a different one. We're going to try this guy here. See if this works. Maybe I was just being impatient. I should just go quickly here. Because when I start a new chat on this side, sorry, I'm just side tangent here. I just want to test this out really quickly. When I do a data connector over here for the demo one, it loaded. Am I crazy? Didn't it load instantly last time? Let me see, demo. Are there multiple demo ones? I literally just did the query, right? Am I crazy? I'm just a little crazy. Over here on this side, we definitely ran this marketing spend one really quickly, right? This one connected to the demo one. Yeah, I'm not crazy. Okay. Okay, so it looks like it connects. Maybe it just takes a little bit of time. I'm just being impatient here. We'll just try this one more time here. I'm gonna make a new notebook. Every webinar goes without its own hitches. So we'll try this one really quickly again. We'll do demo, and then we'll try this guy here. Okay, it worked. Again, it works flawlessly the second try. Maybe it was just that one, which is funky. I'm going to type in that same query. So we'll say, show me marketing spend by channel. And then we could run it. Again, if you haven't tuned into some of our previous webinars, we did one for notebooks last week. Notebook is a great way for just doing repeated analysis. And the way we walked through it was by uploading a file. But in my opinion, the best value you get is by adding in a data connector. It's like plugging right into the source like a socket. It just gets you a direct line to the live data, right? That means you could rerun, and we'll show you in a minute. Same as that query, we could see the spend over time. But the cool part is I could schedule this now to be run every day, week, month, etc. as needed. And this way I don't need to actually go and run a query myself to grab that data and upload it into Julius. I could have it run asynchronously and have it run on when I'm sleeping or before I come into the office every morning. Here I'll set this up to be scheduled every, let's say 1:30, and then you could save it, for example. And in this case, I'm just going to test this out. And this is what it will happen. It's going to connect to my data source, so that demo Postgres automatically, it should. Let's see if it runs any issues. And then it's going to run that query itself automatically as well. And this is the beauty of the data connector. It just allows you to do all these sort of automatic processes because you don't have to do any of the uploading of the files itself. Okay, looks like something's off. This has been kind of on and off just from today. I'll flag this to the team, but this shouldn't take more than, at least that last time we just ran through it together, which was 10 seconds? Maybe something's just off with this notebook. But that's a good segue in. If something does happen in the schedule and it does error out, Julius will retry up to 3 times to connect to it. So here's the second try. And look at that. So the second time it worked flawlessly. And then it's going to work through all of the different cells to go through together. So it's going to run that same exact query here. And the cool thing, again, is that it's going to deliver all of these results to my inbox automatically. It's going to send me a notification in my actual email address that's associated with my account. It's going to say, hey, your notebook is done running. But if I've connected this to a Slack channel, for example, it's just going to send it directly to Slack, which is really, really useful. All right, so we're going to let this run and see how this works. All right, so it's going here, and it looks like that seemed to work, right? So every week, imagine if you do like a marketing sync, or maybe you have like a meeting that you have to get ready for. Um, just having the data connector set up is the biggest hurdle. As you can see from the webinar, I ran into some issues earlier. But once you do have the data connector set up, you can get a lot of this analysis, reporting, even things like your slides on autopilot, right? We could generate the same exact charts that we did from last week's meeting, but with up-to-date data and fresh data without needing to do anything. I myself, for these webinars, I send out these invitations to the folks that I think would benefit most from doing this. In order for me to do that, I need to look at our users. Maybe it's folks that have signed up recently that I want to email. Normally, what I would have had to do is run a query, grab these people manually, put it into Julius, send out the invites manually. What I actually do now is I just have the data connector set up automatically to grab folks that have signed up recently. It runs every week for me, and then I just have to download the list and upload it to our email software, and then I'll send out the invites that way. It saves me 10 minutes every week from not needing to do it manually. So a lot of interesting use cases that we've been building out. I'm going to see really quickly here if I'm able to actually connect on my other account that I was trying to demo, because I want to show you guys the Slack integration in real time. So let me take a look here really quickly, and I'll try to connect to my marketing database one more time. I think it might have been an intermittent issue. Let me try my credentials one more time. So please bear with me. But I kind of want to show off how the data connector works in Slack. I think it's one of the coolest things that we've built, at least since I've been at Julius. So let's try this out here. Let me update this really quickly off screen, and then I'll update this. Okay, so it was like an intermittent issue. I'm going to switch us back to my other screen here. This guy. Cool. So here we have the Postgres connector. This is the same exact one that I was using before. But this time I'm going to show you the Slack integration, which I have connected here too. So if I go to slack.com, and I will open up my Julius webinar Slack. I'm going to do it in the browser. It also works in the actual Slack app, but just for making it easier to show, I'm just going to do everything in my browser right now. Last week we walked through connecting Julius to your Slack. You could simply invite Julius, and that'll add the Julius app to whatever Slack channel that you're using. And now that we have this connector set up, I could ask Julius, what did I ask before? Show me marketing spend by channel. All right. So Julius is going to think through this, and then it's going to post the analysis into Slack directly without me needing to even open Julius. Take a look here and see if this works. A lot of people work in Slack. I know myself. Let's see, did it work? Let's go. So it worked. So the same exact analysis that we had before. Here's the current marketing spend by channel, summed over all available dates in the marketing spend daily channel or table. And then the cool part here is you could ask follow-up questions just like you're in Julius, right? I'm going to say like, Julius, can you visualize this for me? You could do this yourself. You could, just like you're talking to any any data analyst, you could just ask directly any follow-up questions in Slack. And the cool part is your team can too, right? They could also ask follow-up questions. One of the other cool side things about just using the Julius Slack bot and with the data connectors is seeing other people ask questions in a channel helps spark that sort of curiosity, right? I see some of my colleagues here at Julius asking questions using Julius, and it's just like, oh wow, why haven't I thought about that in a while? Or I'm curious, like, hey, that is a good question. What has the marketing spend been by channel? Just seeing this analysis done in a Slack channel just makes so much sense. So here we see Julius had followed up. Visualize this total marketing spend by channel. If at any point you want to go back to the analysis and see what Julius had done, you can click open in Julius, and that'll open up that respective chat where this was all done. And you can see Julius had taken the questions and put them into a new chat, just like we were working inside of chat here in the visualizations itself. So that's the sort of benefits of using a data connector, right? You first get over that initial hurdle of needing to upload any files manually, right? Don't have to do that anymore. Second, your data updates in real time, right? Everyone that has a database usually is connected to something that gets updated, right? So maybe it's new users being created, or maybe it's users activity in your app that you're making, or maybe it's even something like cost or spend or something that gets updated somewhere, right? Second part to that is you could also use some of the features that we've built that really do benefit most from data connectors. So things like our Slack agent, right? Really, you can also, I don't want to say you can't use files. You can also upload files from your computer, for example. So if I upload maybe from my data sets, one of these files, I could just tell Julius, can you analyze this? Julius can also do files, but it really does get the most value out of data connectors, right? Because you could just ask one-off questions and Julius knows how to write the query over time as it gets better. Again, referring to the learned information that we talked about, it'll get better over time and you'll just know, similar to how you humans understand our own databases and the way things are organized and how some of the tables relate to each other, it's going to know how to query better over time too. So that's why it's really cool. Or it'll benefit more from data connectors, at least using the Slack agent channel we see here. And then third, you could do things like get your analysis on autopilot, right? So if you do have a notebook where you do update your weekly marketing metrics or weekly reporting over time, looks like I ran into an issue here. I'm just going to retry one more time. Sometimes you might just need to refresh your marketing metrics or refresh the metrics needed for whatever meeting you're going to. A lot of times you end up just going to these tools, pulling the data, doing the analysis yourself in a Google Sheet, or like what I was doing, I'm getting the list of emails from users, right? A lot of that you could just get on autopilot so you could focus on other work that's more impactful or what your time is needed more on. So you can see here, it's able to also handle things like manual file uploads as well. I'm going to share some other resources. As we experienced in today's webinar, it's not a super simple exercise of just connecting to your data. Sometimes you might run into some errors or some bugs or some one-off issues. If that's the case, I do recommend everyone to please join our community Slack. Really great place for you to get access to resources or get help if you need to. Separately, if you're not running into issues, a great place to just share the work that you're doing or just introduce yourself to the growing amount of users that have joined our Julius community Slack. Just introduce yourself or maybe just tell us a little bit about what you're working on too. But also you can see some of the bugs that folks have reported and then the team will follow up as needed there too. Separately, if you joined late, I did share a link to our docs. Has outlines here. We're going to be adding all of our information to our documentation. If you go over to the data connectors tab, for every single one of our connectors, almost, we added these last night, we'll have setup guides for each one of those. So all the necessary fields that you'll have to collect, or you can just send this to your IT team if they are the ones that are responsible or the ones that you'll need permission from to get access to add your data connector to Julius if needed. Then finally, you could send them access to our Trust Center. This is where they can access our SOC 2 Type 2 report, GDPR compliance, and then any of our other processes that we have and policies if they need help too. Can BI be integrated with Julius AI? Not at the moment right now. That is one of our most popular requests is BI and also Power BI, right? If you do have, if there is a data connector that you really do want, sorry, too many tabs here. You can go to the data connectors tab and at the very bottom here, you could request a connector. If you click on this guy, it'll bring us up to a form. You could let us know any of the connectors that you really do want to bring into Julius, and then we'll add it to our docket of things to add. We watch this sheet nonstop. I think there's a lot of these integrations that we've built out or a result from the inputs from that sheet, right? Just a measured demands. So if you could just input that into that form, really, really helpful. But BI is definitely on our radar. Oh, wow. I didn't even talk about dashboards. So we haven't really mentioned or released dashboards yet, but the other cool thing about these data connectors is you could pull all of this inside of our new dashboards feature, which is an alpha, a brand new feature that we're building out. But for example, if I open up that marketing database, I could write that same exact query here. So I could say, Julius, show me marketing spend by channel. It's going to write, I don't know if that's correct. We'll see if this is correct. We could run this here. Let's see if this works. Yeah, it looks like it worked. It is the right query. See, I don't even know what I'm talking about sometimes when it comes to writing the query itself. I'm not a technical person when it comes down to it. But we see Julius had written the query here. And the cool thing is we could just plot it just like this and save it. And then now I have something that I can refer to without needing to do all of that work. I'll just have the marketing spend over time. That's not the right thread. Here, I could add a new tile. I have this one here, which shows me the marketing spend by channel. Separate other use that I completely glossed over, but another really good use case of data connectors is the ability to add them right into a dashboard like this and make it easy to just consume your dashboards without needing to remake these over time again. So you could just get your whole team or get all of your analysis and insights from a reusable artifact or a dashboard just like this. Cool. Any other questions? I know this is quite a lot of information. I know that we did go over some good errors and some good, at least it's proof, if you're not willing to do it live and just experience some of these errors in real time, then it's not a real demo, is my opinion. So we definitely got to experience our fair share of some issues and hiccups. But again, if you guys run into any of these or have any issues setting these up, please reach out into the either Julius Community Slack, where we'll reach out to you, or if you post, or you can even create a ticket as well in our help center, which you can find at the bottom here as well. I'm going to stick around for 1 or 2 more minutes if there's any other questions, but if you guys are going to hop off, thank you so much for joining. We do these webinars every week. You could look for any resources available to you or other future webinars on our Luma page, which is lu.ma. You can also see our YouTube channel. This has all of the previous webinars that we've hosted, as well as some of the upcoming webinars too. We'll send out a feedback email after this from Luma. If there's any topics that you want covered in the nenext webinar, maybe it's something about the work that you're doing, or maybe it's a specific feature in Julius that we haven't really covered, or maybe you want another data connectors webinar to show you all of the different setup things or different connectors, please add that there, and then we'll more than happy to update our upcoming webinars accordingly. That's it for today's session. Again, thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you for bearing with me as I worked through some of those errors. But again, one of the things that comes with doing these in real time. But looking forward to seeing you guys in the next webinar. Hope you have a great rest of your morning, evening, or night, depending on where you're dialing in from. And we'll see you guys in the next one.